Okay, surely we can get around. Oh man, meteors keep coming and coming. Uh, Please, not the pipes, not the pipes. Oh, I just missed. Oh, that one didn't. I mean, how are you supposed to do this? Lava of Earth and Mars. I can't get around this. I'll see how my other colony's doing, which is fine, of course. But that's just part of surviving Mars. Hi everybody, Army P here for eXplorminate, and thanks for watching my video on my thoughts on Surviving Mars with the Space Race DLC. Now, Surviving Mars came out in early this year, March of 2008, and I did a Let's Play for it. You can see it here on the channel. I thought that it was actually a very good base game for surviving on Mars, if you're going to make a game for that. But I think that the general community seemed to be kind of split on it, because it ended up with rather mixed results when it comes to reviews and people's thoughts and opinions on the matter. I think that a lot of people probably expected something with the depth of maybe a Sim City or something similar like a City Skylines. And unfortunately, in that aspect, the vanilla version of Surviving Mars did fall a little bit short. There were a lot of nuances and problems with the game when it came to certain control measures that became frustrating as you entered into the mid and to the late game eras of the game. You'll be happy to know that even if you are not interested in the Space Race DLC, a lot of different patches have come out since March of 2018 to November of 2018 that have addressed not only the majority of these issues, but actually enhanced and given away free features by Hegemon Games to kind of shore up, smooth out, and really tighten up Surviving Mars in a broad sense. One of the things that always frustrated me when I played Surviving Mars, and I probably put about 40 hours into the vanilla game when it first came out, was one of the biggest, I would say, hurdles that you ended up having to achieve or try to get or overcome was a constant breaking down of your electrical or pipelines between your resource gathering and your domes. This has been drastically reduced, which is I'm thankful for, because it ends up giving up different challenges that you have to overcome besides just the breaking down of pipes and the breaking down of electrical circuits. Another one of the biggest complaints that came out of the general community when it comes to Surviving Mars is that there seemed to be no way to connect your domes. So oftentimes when you'd build a medium or a large dome, your colonists, seeing how one dome, perhaps if you built it later in the actual stage of your game, would have a better comfort or more amenities, would actually try to run in space on the surface of Mars to try to get to the better dome. This has been alleviated, thankfully, by the ability to connect your domes by a tunnel passageway, which your colonists can use in between. So let's say in this particular case, you're looking at my setup here. I've created one dome in the middle that has all the amenities and a casino and a bar that the other two that are joining it your workers can use to kind of blow off some steam and to increase their comfort levels. And that was drastically needed, and it was awesome that they gave it to us. And this was completely free. You're going to get that feature completely free outside of the DLC, which is also appreciated. Another one is, of course, that we're going to get a myriad of different domes that you can build right off the hop that have all of some advantages and disadvantages until you start getting into the larger tech tree, the larger stages of your tech tree, where you can build massive mega domes, which will, of course, replace nearly everything else that you choose to build. The Space Race DLC is kind of a mixed bag for me personally. You see, we've gotten so much for free when it comes to updated patches that the Space Race DLC kind of seems a little bit thin on the bone in direct comparison. What we're getting in exchange for the cost of, I think, $12.99 is two different countries that you can play of who have their own unique buildings, which is appreciated and great, a few additional sponsors, and then of course the ability to have different nations be on Mars at the same time, which you can interact with. The only problem was I figured the interaction with would be more on a competitive level versus what we actually got, which is more of like almost a very bare bone civilization type diplomacy screen, where offering of trading goods and whatnot. I largely ignored this screen. It didn't feel that there was a detriment to my game at all. I really expected a more direct competition in between the nations versus what we got. I think this probably needed a little bit more time in the oven and a little bit more fleshed out and more complexity, even if it meant a higher price point. One of the many complaints that Surviving Mars had when it first launched was that its difficulty level was extremely low, and I have to agree, it felt more like a relaxed builder than a legitimate challenge of surviving on Mars. Now you can see here that I'm getting pelted with a meteor storm, which happened several times in my most recent game. And I loved the idea of different challenges being presented in this fashion, including new anomalies that could actually make your game more difficult one way or the other. But the issue is, and it has remained since the vanilla game of Surviving Mars, is that your challenges that you're facing has more to do with your resources versus overcoming them in any different fashion. An example would be the most valuable resource easily in Surviving Mars, both when it launched and now in November when Space Race has been released, is metals. Metals, if you don't have a good starting location where you can get metals easily before you get deep mining, which is a tech later, which you discover more resources deeper underneath the crust of Mars. If you don't have a lot of metal off the hop, the game's going to be an incredibly difficult slog for you. And in many ways, because of the anomaly system and these asteroid pelts, you could actually be eradicated very quickly. So the reason that metals are so important is because if you build solar panels or wind turbines, they're going to require not only metal to build, but metal to maintain. And when it comes to your wind turbines, you need metal to create machine parts. And these are probably the two most valuable resources in the entire game because your entire electrical grid demands it until much later into the tech tree. So much like the game you're watching right now, if you didn't end up getting a good deposit of metal, which in this game I didn't, I found that I had to often rely so heavily on transports from Earth that it became the game became more of a frustration of waiting versus a frustration of challenge. And that's definitely one of the things I believe that the developers should look at, because if my biggest challenge of any game is just waiting for more resources versus the challenges that they set up to overcome in different and unique ways, there's a significant design problem. It may sound like I'm not very enthusiastic about Surviving Mars, but that's actually farther from the truth. I enjoyed this game when it first launched at the beginning of the year, and I really enjoy it now. I think that the quality of life improvements that they've instituted over the last close to a year of patchings has been awesome, and I think that if anybody has been interested in this game, it's the best time to jump in because you're getting the best version by far. Although I can't necessarily say that the Space Race DLC is worth it. I would say that if you love this game and the vanilla version of it, it's definitely worth a look at. Anyway, this has been Army P for eXplorminate, and thanks for watching.